Let's see if I can move over just a tiny bit. There we go. Centering there. And this is the More Than Autumn class. It's my greetings card kit of the month. You receive the supplies to make the cards and the cute little 3D project. You also receive a share of the Iconic Celebrations paper, a full pack of the embellishments, and a share of the ribbon to create your projects. So that is $30 registered. If you need it to be shipped, it's an additional $9.50. Porch pickup is free if you'd prefer that. You do need to register by today, and it will be shipped on or about the 27th of this month. It goes the same always. The tutorial is available for immediate download, and I only ask that if you don't see it in your email box right away, give me an email, shout out. I would love to get it out to you, make it right. So no worries. Check your spam, check your junk. Sometimes it lands in there. But otherwise, just email me, reach out, and I will get it to you. All right, so it is Friday, September 20th. Are you ready to see today's project? It is a super fun, over-the-top fun fold. Oh, happy day. You can see my fall theme going on. When you open it up, you get all the beauty of fall. So you can see my Spice pumpkin pie, a hot apple cider, because nothing's better than fall. It's super easy. Well, it's time consuming, but it is easy to create. So let's get started. I'm going to put this up here as my reference card. Move this over so I have some space for my supplies. And we are going to start off with the basics of the card, because you could decorate this fun fold any way you like once you learn the basics and the mechanics of the card. So to get started, you will need some colored cardstock, 4.5 by 11. You also need a second piece that's 3.5 by 10, a third piece that's 3.5 by 8, and you're going to need an insert that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So those are the basics. The rest are decorating pieces, and I'll mention those as we go along. So we are going to start with step number 1. When we create this pop and twist card, we're going to go ahead and score everything to get set up. So I'm going to move a couple of these things aside. I'm going to start with my largest piece. I'll start with the largest piece, which is the standard card size, 4 1/4 by 11. This is going to be scored. I'm using my handy dandy trimmer with both blades. Be extra careful. I just pushed my cutting blade out of the way. And the first score we're going to make on the long side at 5.5, so that's midpoint through. Remember, we are scoring, not cutting. So one score down the middle. Put that aside. We're going to go ahead and continue with our scoring. Move my caramel macchiato aside. And my second piece that measures 3.5 by 10, here's what we're going to do. We're going to score on the long side. The first score is at 2.5. So right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and score that down. Remember, scoring blade, not cutting blade. Now, my next score is going to be at 5. And again, we are scoring, not cutting. The next score is at 7.5, which means I need to open up the extending tool, and I'm going to push over to 7.5. Scoring, and we're done with the second piece. The third piece is the 8" by 3.5. I'm just going to confirm that's what I've got. And here's what we're going to do. On the short side, we are going to score at 1 3/4. So bringing over to 1 3/4, scoring. Now I'm going to rotate it to the long side, and we're going to score at 2 1/4. And I'm going to score that. And this time I'm going to make a little mark. I'm going to make a mark right up here and down here. And then I'm going to push over to 5 3/4. So 5 3/4. Again, I'm going to score. And again, I'm going to mark. And the reason for the marks are I'm now going to score on the diagonal. And the marks help you find the diagonal, especially with colored cardstock. So what I'm doing is I'm putting that mark right on the track, top mark, bottom mark. So I'm scoring on the diagonal, and then I'm going to rotate it, and so it's like at 45 degrees there. I'm going to rotate it and do the same on the other diagonal. So the mark is right on the track, right on the track. I'm going to score down, and there we go. So you can sort of see, hopefully, well, I've got that horizontal going right down the center, and then I've got like an X on my paper. And we also have those vertical lines. We're not going to fold and burnish yet. I'll set that aside, and let's do this together. So I'm going to bring in my large piece. I'm going to look for that valley score, put that on the outside, and I'm going to fold down. I'm going to bring in my bone folder, and I'm going to go corner to corner. And so this is the perfect time to correct any slight error that you've got on your scoring, right, like so. There we go. So we've got that vertical card opening. I'm going to push that aside. The second piece, which is the 10 by 3 1/2, this is the pop-up book. And what I'm doing, I'm putting those valley folds bottom down, and the first one I'm going to bring down. I'm going to put it in vertical position. It's a little bit easier that way. I'm going to fold one down. I'm going to then fold up, aligning that edge to edge. And again, this is the perfect time to correct any slight mismeasurement. Now the next one, I'm going to flip it the opposite direction. And again, corner to corner, and score down. And so what you're going to see is we have a W, right? So we're going to do that, and I am going to burnish in all directions. We want the cardstock really pliable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold it opposite direction and burnish it down. It just helps with the mechanics to make the card pop and twist. Okay, so now we've got it going in both directions, still that W. I'm going to push that aside, and I'm going to bring in my third piece, and the first thing I'm going to do, I've got that valley fold there, so I'm going to flip it to the bottom, fold it up, and score it right down the middle. And remember, we want the paper really pliable, so now I'm going to flip it and do the same other direction. And now we are going to be scoring on the diagonal. So I'm going to, again, bring that valley fold down. I'm going to bring this up on that 45-degree angle, and I'm going to burnish that down and go the opposite direction as well. Burnish it down, and we're going to catch that other diagonal as well. So this is the mechanism that makes the card pop and twist. Such a fun over-the-top card. And I will say, if you want to make these, keep in mind these take a little bit more time. So this isn't a card you want to do on the fly. It takes a little bit of time. And so what I've done is kind of scored in every direction. You can see how that peak is wanting to go up, and I'm going to go ahead and let it. So I'm going to bring my fingers in, help that fold in. The next one's going to fold in as well. And here, what we're doing is creating the mechanism here. So this one is a little bit off. Again, I'm going to fold and burnish. So I'm keeping it in position. Notice how I want that fold right down the center. Just going to go ahead and burnish that down. Flip it and do the same on the other side. There we go. And so we've got our mechanism. We have our card base. Everything should be ready to go here. So I'm going to be careful and do it one more time. Folding and burnishing. And I think that is the key to making this project, is just be patient. Use your bone folder and burnish nicely on all of the score lines. So we have our 3 pieces. We have our mechanism, our card base, and the pop-up book. And the next step, we are going to adhere some of the pieces together. So first thing I'm going to do is bring in my card base. I'm going to bring in an insert. Remember, this one measures just 1/8 smaller than the card front. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that inside. So I'm just going to glue that down. Just taking a little bit here. Oops, let me unclog it. See if that's better. There we go. So I find the liquid glue works the best. It's more forgiving, but if you are a seal person, then by all means use the Seal and Seal Plus. We're just going to have a slight border on all sides. So what is that, like a 1/16 of a border right there. And again, this is a great fun fold. It is a wow project, definitely a wow project. All right, and the next step is I'm going to make a mark right down the center of the card. So if the card measures 4 1/4, midpoint would be 2 1/8, right? So I'm going to come in with my measuring tool and I'm going to make a small dot at 2 1/8 as well at the top. So there's 2 1/8. Now I'm just going to connect those dots, draw a line. So from one line down, and I'm going to draw all the way down lightly. This is going to be erased, so you just want to make a light mark. And what we're going to do is adhere the mechanism. So we're going to go ahead and bring in that mechanism. Remember, we folded, we burnished, and we're going to attach this to the card interior. The peak of the mechanism is going to go right on the center score line of the card base. And notice how I have the folds aligned right on the pencil mark. That's the reason we marked it right down the midpoint. And I'm making sure I have this nice and even. Now we're going to attach this by applying glue only to that triangle portion of the mechanism. And we want enough glue. So you have to find the balance between too much glue and enough glue. We don't want any of this oozing out, because if you have any stickiness, that would impede the mechanism. Now what I'm going to do is just close this down and press firmly. What we're doing is attaching one side of that mechanism and just adhere. So just apply a little bit of pressure. I'm going to flip my card over and we're going to do the same on the other side. So you open that up. We're going to apply the adhesive to the triangle, only the triangle, not a lot, but enough. So there's a fine point in there when you have too much and when you have not enough. You want it to stick, but you don't want it to ooze out. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go ahead and close that shut and adhere. And so now we have the inside mechanism adhered. Look at that, it's coming together. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this up. This is going to be the insert where you can write your message. So you want that at the bottom. And I'm not going to erase that line yet because I still need that guide. So what I'm going to do, make sure this is adhered flat. Now I'm going to bring in my book mechanism, and I'm going to fold this so that the two outside flaps are folded in. And this is going to be lined up right with that center line, and then the top and the bottom of the cardstock there. So let's bring that in right along the center. Make sure you've got your top and bottom aligned as well. And this is important as well. We are going to apply adhesive only to the top rectangle, the top right rectangle, and the bottom left rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hold this in position so that it's still aligned. I'm going to add my adhesive up here. And again, you don't want it oozing out, but you do want enough to make it stick. There. And then, so remember, upper right, lower left. And so what we're going to do, double checking that I didn't slip. Now I'm going to open up the book, close that down and adhere. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, right like so. So that is adhered. Now I'm ready to erase that mark that was right down the center. And I make sure I'm doing okay. If you're watching and you have any questions, post it now. If you have anything that I need to clear up for you. I will add, the card is going to be bulky. It's probably going to require extra postage if you're sending this through the U.S. mail. And it depends, I found it depends on the post clerk that you get, on how much they charge you. It's kind of frustrating sometimes. All right, so you've got the basics of the card constructed. Now we're going to try closing this, and the best thing to do, the first couple times we have to help it along. I'm taking my four fingers on each side, and I'm just tucking that in, and you're seeing how it twists around. That wasn't too difficult. I'm going to go ahead and burnish it down. It's a little bit lumpy. Remember, it's going to be bulky, but watch as I open. It open and it twists, and there you go. And when we close, we're going to close down. First few times it needs a little bit of help. There you go. Got it? So cool, right? All right, so the next step, and this would be for any card, anything that you want to do, the next part is decorate. So what I'm doing, I have my Oh Happy Day, and I am using paper from the Iconic Celebrations. And let me bring that out. So my first layer, I'm taking those pretty autumn leaves. It's Cajun Craze. On the flip side is some striped Mossy Meadow. And this is going to be flat adhered to the card front. Now, for the card front, you don't want to add too much dimension because you've already got the bulkiness going on inside. So most of it is going to be flat. I'm just going to add this down here, and this is 1/4 inch smaller than the card front, so we're going to have about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Now this pattern is a little bit different. I've got the dots going on one and the leaves going on another. Both have that beautiful autumn color, the Cajun Craze. And I'm going to use the flip side of the same sheet. I cut it 4 inches wide, and I'm just going to adhere that down flat again. A little bit of contrast, that way there's not too much Cajun Craze going on front. We're breaking up the color. And this is going to go, you can tell I'm not measuring. I'm going to bring this in and maybe a little bit lower. There we go. I am eyeballing it. If you want to put it center, you can. I like it. I like mine kind of weighted more towards the bottom. So there's our first 2 layers. Now, for the message, I am stamping on the Greetings of the Seasons tag, the largest tag, and I am going to use the greeting from Kindest Expressions, Oh Happy Day. I love the nice big font, the nice sentiment. And I am stamping, here are my colors I'm going to be using. I've got Tuxedo Black, Early Espresso, and Cajun Craze. I am going to stamp Oh Happy Day in Early Espresso. So I'm going to take that nice big Oh Happy Day and I'm going to ink it this way. Make sure I've got lots of ink. Again, this is the fun part where you can make it your own because you can decorate however you like. Oh Happy Day. There we go. And I have done some die cutting in advance, so you don't have to watch me die cutting, but I will add, the die cuts are all taken from the More Than Autumn dies. I'm going to be taking that cute leaf that's in the die set, and I have cut it in 4 different colors. Let's bring those over. And again, I did this in advance so the card wouldn't get too time consuming, and I'm fingers crossed I don't lose any of these dies, so I'm going to put them up at the top. And I've got one that's in Cajun Craze. I've got one that's in Pumpkin Pie. I've got a Mossy Meadow, and I have a Crushed Curry. Now this little leaf is really sweet. You could actually switch up the veins in the leaf because they're 2 different parts. So you could put the green veins on any of the colored leaves, however you want to do it. That's what I love about this More Than Autumn. You have so many possibilities with the greetings and with the images. So I'm going to kind of replicate what I've done earlier. These are just little die cuts from the coordinating die set, giving you that fall feeling. I know so many of us wait for fall and all the nice things that come with fall. The season, the treats, the turning of the colors, just the drop in temperature. That is probably my favorite part of fall. How about you? Do you have a favorite thing about fall? I think most. I love the treats again, but I think what I really love from living in Southern California is that drop in temperature where you get that nice crisp air. Such a relief after the heat from the summer. Now, having said that, here in Southern California, we're experiencing a little bit of fall today, but summer will be returning tomorrow. All right, there I have my card front art, and then I took just about a 7-inch piece of the 23, 25 in color jute, and I'm going to slip that through from front to back. What's cool about these Greetings of the Seasons tags is they already have that little hole punch there. Makes it really convenient. I'm going to pull that through. There we go. There's my focal point art. And I said I was going to limit the dimension, but this is going to be popped up with dimensionals. Mostly because I've got that jute going on, which added a little bit of height. But let's see. There. All right. And I'm just going to push that down at an angle. And I can trim that off later. Now what we're going to do is decorate those panels on the inside. Now I did a little bit of die cutting previously. I'm going to push that aside as my focal point and show you what I've done on these and how I did it. So we need 4 basic whites that are 3 1/4 by 2 1/4. And you can see I've stamped and added die cuts. So let's start in order. I'm going to do my labeling down at the bottom where I've got Spice Spice, Pumpkin Pie, Hot Apple Cider, and then I've got another message that I've layered up there. And all of these stamps are from the coordinating set. And now I'm going to start off by stamping in Cajun Craze. So that's the fall color of the season, the Cajun Craze. And down at the bottom of the first one, I'm going to bring in my spice. And these are such tiny dies. I've got a larger, this is block C, way bigger than I need, but I don't want to lose these tiny stamps. All right, so I'm going to put that there. So, and I'm going to try to center it. So I'm putting that E almost at the center. So spice, spice. There's that. Then I'm going to do pumpkin pie. Still in Cajun Craze. Pumpkin and pie. I love pumpkin pie. So there we go. Could be apple pie too, right? Because this set also has the apple word. So Spice Spice pumpkin pie. Then I'm going to do my apple cider. And I'm going to do the same. That E is going to go down like a center point. There's my apple. And my cider. Now we come to a bit of a technique. I'm borrowing the hot from the hot cocoa. I'm not sure if you can see that. And what I'm going to do is mask off the word cocoa. Hopefully I've got what I need here. Yes, I do. So I'm just going to tape that off. I'm going to apply a little bit of tape. I'm going to ink up just the hot. Now before I stamp down, I'm going to go ahead and pull that tape off. And now I'm ready to stamp. And this is centered right over the apple cider. Let me bring that in a little bit easier. There we go, hot apple cider. And the final greeting is nothing's better than fall. I pre-stamped that. Let's see. Oh dear, I hope I have it here. It might have wandered off. I won't panic yet. It's got to be around here someplace. Anyway, I'm going to continue on. Let's do our imagery stamping. And so right now we are stamping directly on the basic white layer. And I'm going to stamp the coffee cups in basic black. So first one is going to be Spice Spice, just above the words. The next one's going to be the coffee cup for the pumpkin pie. And the next one's going to be the apple cider. There. Then I'm going to add some of the little fun elements, the Spice Spice pumpkin pie. I'm going to do the pumpkin directly on the cozy. Let's see, I don't need anything on the pumpkin pie. I do want the apple on the hot apple cider. There we go. All right, we're almost getting there. We're going to do a little bit of coloring. And for that, I have my Stampin' Blends. And I'll tell you my color scheme. All right, so let's see. You can see for the spice, I am using the pumpkin spice. I am using the peach pie and the pumpkin pie. Now let's see if I can put those up so you can see. Then I also have Cajun Craze. I've got Poppy Parade, Pecan Pie, Crumb Cake, and Granny Apple Green. Okay, so those are the colors I'm coloring with. I'm going to start off with my peach pie. Push these over. And the Spice, I started off with the light peach pie and colored throughout with the brush tip. So I'm just putting down a little bit of color for the pumpkin spice. I'm leaving the cozy white. And I am going to bring in a little bit of pumpkin to blend. So let me get my pumpkin pie blend. Again, the pen tip. And I'm just going to bring in some little areas where I want to darken around the corners, the base, just to add a little bit of texture. Right there. All right. I'm also going to do the apple cider, so I'm going to bring that in. And for the apple cider, I did it a little bit different. I have an undertone of crumb cake. I wanted a slightly different color for the apple cider, although my apple cider does come up kind of peach colored when I make it. And then I'm going to blend in the peach pie over that. And I get a little bit of a different color. Right, like so. Okay, there's my apple cider. So you can see the difference between this pumpkin spice and the apple cider. I'm going to go ahead and color my pumpkin again with the peach pie. And then I'm going to bring in the pumpkin pie for shadowing. Right along the lines and towards the bottom. There we go. And to color the apple, I'll use the light Poppy Parade. And this, not sure what kind of an apple it would be, but sometimes they have a little bit of different tone. So again, I brought in the light peach pie and did partial apple. There we go. And let's do the little leaf on the apple with Granny Apple Green. There we go. All right, I think I've done most of the coloring. And I did pre-die cut. Let's get the blends out of the way. So some of the blends you might not have seen me color with right now. I'll call them out as I start adding things. So for the whipped cream on the pumpkin spice, I stamped the whipped cream using the basic beige ink pad. And then I've got I should have a nice little straw that was stamped in black and colored with pumpkin pie. I'm going to attach that to the whipped cream. And I'm just going to use a tiny dab. Put that right through behind. And then this gets attached to the spice cup. And again, there's a fine line between enough glue and too much glue. This goes right at the top. There's my pumpkin spice. So we have one panel done. I'm going to bring in my pumpkin pie. And for this one, it's just coffee. So I left the coffee cup white, and I'm coloring with the crumb cake. So I'm going to create the little cozy with crumb cake. And just using the brush tip to add the color. And I'm going to label that cozy with the word coffee. And this also comes from the die set. It's stinking cute, so tiny. I pre-die cut it. It's in basic black. And I'm just going to put the tiniest bit of glue behind. This is one of those pieces you could add the adhesive sheet. And sometimes that's a little bit of a struggle getting the backing off. So I made it easy. A tiny bit of glue works as well. Make sure that's pressed down. And then I have the pumpkin pie pre-stamped, cut, and colored. And here's where the pecan pie comes in. I did it for the crust. The pie itself was colored with peach pie and a little bit of pumpkin pie in the corners. This is going to be flat adhered along with the coffee cup. It's going right in here. Let's push that down just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to add a little bit of whipped cream. Now, you will notice if you've been looking at this bundle, while we have that dollop, look at that, I've got inky fingers. While we have the dollop of whipped cream, there is no stamp for the dollop of whipped cream. However, if you look at that whipped cream, the larger image, you can get the dollop from the top of the whipped cream, and there is a die for the dollop. So very cool the way Stampin' Up! Was thinking. Love it. Multi-purpose, very resourceful. And I'm just going to put a little dollop of whipped cream. By the way, this was also stamped in basic white. So there's my second panel. I'm going to bring in my hot apple cider. And for that, I stamped a second dollop of whipped cream and the cinnamon stick. And so for the cinnamon stick, that was colored in 2 layers. First crumb cake and then Cajun Craze, both light blends. And this is going to be added. Actually, I should do this on the back because I want to make sure that I clear the frame of the image, meaning I don't want anything sticking off of this white portion. The dollop of whipped cream is going to be placed right in front. Putting it right there. So we have our hot apple cider. And I'm looking for my my nothing's better than greeting. Looks like I lost it. No worries. I'm going to re-stamp. And I have my thin basic white here. Let me grab my ink or my stamp, and I need my basic black. All right, bring that back in. So much for pre-stamping some things. Nothing's better than right at the top. Oh, looks like I also lost the word fall. So I'm going to stamp that again. This is just on a little 1/2 inch strip of basic white. This is one of those scraps, right? Because when I oh, I don't like that at all. When I cut for inserts, the inserts measure 4 inches, which means I always have a 1/2 inch left over. And that's what you save these for. All right, so let's do a little bit of snipping. We're going to snip fall. And we're going to snip the nothing's better than. And I actually trimmed that down. Let's see if I can use my trimmer to cut at once. Let me get the ink out of the way before I get inky fingers, inky hands. Looks good. Easy. Now I'm going to separate those words so I can stack them. And nothing's better than, oh, I'm going to trim off the edge here. Than. All right, I'm going to bring in my final panel and start adhering, and I'm going to help myself out with my tweezers so I can actually hold these a little bit easier. Put a little bit of glue on the back. I tried to do everything on the inside of the card flat. So we're just going to put nothings, and here's where you can go. Some people prefer perfectly straight aligned images. I like it a little bit wonky. That way when I mess up, it looks like it was intentional. So I'm not trying to align anything. Nothing's better than fall. Whoops, yikes. Ah, look at that. Could have almost went upside down. By the way, I'm going to show you my original card because things happen. I'm going to show you what happened. Okay, and nothing's better than fall. So now I'm going to put my imagery down for fall, and I have a second slice of pumpkin pie. Gotta admit, that's one of my favorite things from autumn. And I'm just going to put that down at the base as my little anchor. And then I've got my leaves, the same 4 set like the cover, so it kind of ties in there. And I'm going to glue this down. And again, these leaves are falling, so nothing has to be perfect. Right, like so. So I have created this card, this pop and twist card, many different ways. It's always an awe card. The recipient loves it. Nothing beats a wow card. And one last leaf. And as you can see, it's not that difficult. You can manage it. Just a little bit of measurement and some time. The last thing we're going to do is adhere the panels to our card. So I'm going to bring in my current card. And again, these are going to be flat adhered. So I'm going to do flat liquid glue. You're going to have a slight border, about 1/8 of an inch border. So spice, pumpkin pie. You could do them in any orders. You could use the donuts, you could use the eggnog, the hot cocoa, whatever you like. There's a cute little gingerbread man in the set as well. Lots of pieces going on this bundle. And don't forget, when you get the bundle, the stamp set and the dies at the same time, you're going to save 25%. And trust me, you will want the dies with this. All right. So what do you think? Is it worth doing? I happen to think it's a fantastic card. I don't know what you think. if you like this or not. And when we close it up, remember the first couple times might need a little bit of help. You can fold that down. Oh, happy day. We were going to trim those ends. If I can find my ribbon scissors. So I'm just going to trim them off a tiny bit. Oh, happy day. You open it up and you have your Spice Bites pumpkin pie, hot apple cider. Nothing's better than fall. And here there's also a little stamp that says, except maybe you. It would make a nice fall birthday card. It would make a nice little card to send along, a gift card for a hot bevy. And there you go. There is the Pop and Twist Fun Fold. I hope you like it. I'm going to show you what happens to every crafter. This was my original that I created today, earlier. And when I went to put the insert, oh, thank you, Lena. When I went to put the insert in, I wasn't paying attention. And I actually put it on the wrong side because this is one of those cards that has a designer print paper on front and back. This is supposed to be my card front, and I didn't double check before I assembled. So this is extra special with the pattern paper front and back. And I don't know, I kind of like them both. I like the dots with the little acorns for fall as well, and I like the falling leaves with those Mossy Meadows stripes. I like them both, but it happens to all of us, right? All right, so there is the More Than Autumn card set. I'm going to remind you one more time, final days to register for the More Than Autumn card class, where you will make 5 cards with the beautiful bundle and the cute little gift tote. So that registration closes tonight late, and I hope that you give the Pop and Twist card a try. If you would like the written tutorial, make sure you're on the email list so that you receive all the exclusive tutorials. And if you're placing an order, I do have a hostess code going on. If you place an order with me, $35 or more, you're going to get a card kit for this month's card class free with a $35 order. Use that host code by September 23rd. And if your order is $150 or more, you don't need the host code. I will still send you the class. I would like to thank you for joining me and for supporting me and my small, beautiful business. I hope to see you next time. Thank you.